Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be covering a care guide for Messor Barbarus. These ants are commonly used as a beginner species in the ant keeping community. If you like the video, remember to like and subscribe. And whilst you're there, you might as well hit the bell icon to receive notifications whenever I upload. Similar to Lasius niger, these ants are very common in the ant keeping community, and usually one of the first species for an ant keeper to keep. So, if you are a new ant keeper, stay tuned so you can see all the tips and tricks throughout the video. This species has been popularized throughout the ant keeping community. This is because it's got a pretty interesting habit of eating seeds, and it's a pretty easy to keep species. But just because it's an easy to keep species doesn't mean that you can neglect them. So always keep tabs on your ants. Oh, this does bring me to a good point. These guys are major seed eaters, so all they need is seed and water. So as long as you keep supplying them with water, you can put them on a shelf somewhere and just forget about them. But if you're just starting out, or even if this is your third or fourth colony, I'd recommend keeping them somewhere you can see them and their behaviours, as even though they are a starting species, they are still very interesting and have quite unique behaviours. Along with their incredible behaviours, they also have polymorphism, which in short terms just means they have different cast sizes for workers. So you can get tiny workers, which are adapted for nest work, or you can get the big majors, which are made for crushing seeds and also getting prey. When it comes to diet with these ants, like I said before, they need primarily seeds and water, but you can also give them honey or any other sugar products, like the Wakushi ant nectar. These guys don't need sugar from an external source like honey though, as they make all of their sugar and carbohydrates from their seeds, as when they are in the nest they use water and the seeds, and they crush them to make ant bread, which again is one of the most unique behaviours you'll see in any species. And along with this ant bread comes protein as well. So you don't need to give them insects or anything else, but when I've given them protein jelly in the past, they have happily accepted it. Usually they do this by sending a massive major ant and just scooping it up. On the topic of seeds and ant bread, when keeping these ants, you do want to have half of the nest humidified and the other half not, as when seeds are in a humidified nest, they have the possibility of germinating, which you do not want. So when giving them seeds, I'd recommend giving them chia seeds when they start out, as these are smaller seeds for the ants and easier for them to eat. And as they get bigger and bigger majors, you can give them bigger seeds, as it will be easier for them to crush. Here, I've given them a mealworm, and it's only a matter of seconds before they find it and start attacking it. As I said before, they do get protein from their seeds, but you can supplement them with feeder insects. If you do give them feeder insects though, I would not give them live, as even though these guys are really strong, they are not predators, they are simply scavengers. Moving on to temperature and humidity, Messor Barbarus like their nest at around 25 degrees Celsius when they're not in hibernation. This is because these ants originate from Spain, a bit of France, and slightly northern Africa. So they do quite like the heat, and when it comes to humidity, you should keep these guys at a 10 to 50% humidity gradient, with only watering one half of the nest, as like I said before, the seeds you do not want to germinate. Keeping your nest at these temperatures and humidities will provide Messor Barbarus brood with the perfect conditions for growing. I would recommend using a heat mat, as these are very good and I use them for all my colonies. And you can turn them off, or you can adjust them to whatever temperature you need. I would recommend slowing your heat mat down, or turning it down to where it's barely noticeable during November, and then when it turns December, turning it off until late March, because that is when they go into hibernation. And when they're in hibernation, they need to be at 15-ish degrees Celsius, because they live in Spain and Northern Africa. So even though it is winter for them, they still have quite a hot climate. Like with humidity and how you have to apply a gradient, I'd recommend doing it with heat, so they can choose where they want to put their brood for optimal development. Just like most other ant species, these queens lay eggs, then they go into larvae. But when they go into pupae, they do not spin cocoons, so you can see them naked out, which is a pretty cool thing. When it comes to nesting, when they're big enough, I'd recommend giving them one nest that you humidify and one nest that you don't, so they can choose where to put their seeds. And then I would also give them a test tube, so if they ever run out of water, or you just forget to water them, they can always have a reservoir. This is important for almost every ant species that you keep, so don't think it's just for Messor Barbarus. When buying nests, I would recommend going to Wakushi, and I've started to experiment with Ants HQ, but Wakushi I know are good, so I'll have to review an Ants HQ nest in the future, which I'm quite excited for. But one thing that I do know, if you are going to get these species, I would recommend getting them from Ants HQ, as they are very cheap and they always come with good quality. And since Wakushi's Series 3 nests, you can connect them to tubes and connect them to different stores outwards or nests, so you can hybridize your setups. Along with Wakushi's expandability, they also have tons of customizability for their outwards and nests. These include blackout covers, water towers, and much more. But that's all for now, and I'll see you in the next one. And if you like this video, you might like this other Messor Barbarus content.